Lost in the noise? Don't worry, the Diddy scandal has been dropping bombshells faster than a DJ Khaled mixtape. But if you're new, or if you just need a reset from all the chaos, I've got you. Tonight, we're breaking down the entire fallout in 10 receipts. 10 moments that flipped the story, shook Hollywood, and turned whispers into court filings. And trust me, some of these receipts aren't just shocking, they're the reason prosecutors, judges, and even other celebs are circling this case like vultures. Welcome back to Celeb Courtroom Chaos, where the gossip is hot, the scandals are wild, and the legal tea always piping. Now the Diddy fallout isn't one headline. It's a chain reaction. Lawsuits, raids, testimony, settlements, and leaks. It's messy, but if you follow the receipts, the story comes into focus. So let's do this countdown style. 10 receipts, 10 turning points. From Cassie's lawsuit to Kid Cudi's explosive testimony to the exact court line that keeps Diddy behind bars. All right, let's get into it. Legal tea first, drama second. Receipt 10, November 16th, 2023. Cassie files civil lawsuit. If you want to know where the Diddy empire started crumbling, it's right here. November 16th, 2023. Cassie Ventura, singer, model, and for years Diddy's partner, filed a civil lawsuit in federal court that read less like a filing and more like a tell-all novel. And this wasn't vague something happened language. This lawsuit had receipts, detailed timelines, specific incidents, names, places, patterns. The kind of filing lawyers draft when they know the shock factor alone will grab headlines. And it did. Overnight, every major outlet had Cassie and Diddy's names on the front page. What had changed? For years, Diddy had managed to keep allegations as whispers, background noise drowned out by his image as a mogul, a billionaire, the guy who turned hip-hop hustle into empire. But Cassie's filing made it official. Once it's in federal court, it's no longer gossip. It's on the record. And the detail was devastating. Cassie alleged years of abuse, control, and coercion. She described incidents that, if true, didn't just make Diddy look bad, they made him look like a man who weaponized his power behind closed doors. This is why this receipt matters. Lawsuits aren't just about claims. They're about setting the stage. Cassie's case didn't exist in a vacuum. By naming specifics, she cracked open the door for others to step through. One lawsuit turned into an invitation. If this happened to you too, here's the path to speak up. And here's where it gets legally spicy. Civil suits carry a lower burden of proof than criminal trials. You don't need beyond a reasonable doubt. You need preponderance of evidence. Translation: if the scale tips just slightly in your favor, you win. That makes these filings dangerous for high-profile defendants. They don't have to prove everything. They just have to make it believable. For Diddy, this was the first domino. Once Cassie's case landed, everyone was watching to see if he'd fight it out in court or make it go away. And what happened next? That's where jaws dropped, because less than 24 hours later, the case was gone. Receipt 9, November 17th, 2023. Settlement reached overnight. If Cassie's lawsuit was the match, the settlement was the explosion. Less than 24 hours after filing, Cassie and Diddy's lawyers announced the case had been settled. Done. Gone. Off the books. And in legal time, that's lightning speed. Most civil cases drag for months, years even. Discovery, depositions, motions to dismiss, the dance goes on forever. But here, not even one full news cycle. What it changed? That timing sent a message louder than any courtroom statement. Settling that fast says, we do not want this to go public. It told the world that Cassie's lawsuit wasn't flimsy. It had teeth. Enough to make one of the most powerful men in music rush to the table, write a check, and make it disappear. Now, Diddy's camp spun it differently. His lawyer dropped the line. A decision was made to resolve this matter amicably. Sounds neat, clean, like two adults shaking hands. But the subtext? Settlements like this usually happen when the defendant would rather pay than risk discovery. Because discovery, where lawyers can dig through emails, texts, financial records, is the nightmare stage for any mogul. And here's where the PR backfire hits. Sure, the lawsuit was gone, but the settlement confirmed the suspicion. If you settle that fast, the public reads it as, he's guilty. It doesn't matter what the paperwork says. In the court of public opinion, a 24-hour settlement is basically a confession. And it had another ripple effect. It told every other potential accuser that Diddy was vulnerable, that if they stepped forward, he might pay to make it go away too. You could almost hear the dam cracking. Next milestone, the floodgates. Cassie's case didn't just settle, it opened the door for others. And by December, more lawsuits were coming. Receipt 8, December 2023. The floodgates open. Cassie's case was the crack in the dam. By December, the water was rushing through. Within weeks of that lightning-fast settlement, new civil lawsuits began piling up against Diddy. Women stepping forward with their own allegations, each with its own set of stories, details, and timelines. Suddenly, Cassie wasn't a lone voice. She was the first domino in a chain reaction. And here's why that matters. In court, patterns change everything. One person can be dismissed as exaggerating, confused, or even lying. But when multiple people, independent of each other, come forward with eerily similar accounts, that's what prosecutors call corroboration. The details line up, the stories rhyme, and that's when a civil scandal starts to smell like a criminal case. What it changed. Diddy's PR wall, the one he'd built for decades around his mogul image, collapsed almost overnight. It was no longer about one accuser with claims from years ago. It was about multiple women, across multiple years, each adding weight to the same narrative. That Diddy wasn't just a party king, he was allegedly running something darker behind the velvet ropes. And let's not forget the cultural echo. This moment felt like déjà vu of the R. Kelly saga. For years, he brushed off whispers. But once a critical mass of women came forward, the tide turned. Courts and the public saw not just isolated accusations, but a system. That's exactly what was starting to happen here. For Diddy's legal team, December was a nightmare. Every new lawsuit meant more discovery, more documents at risk, more headlines. And each filing was fuel for federal agencies who were suddenly very interested in whether this was more than just bad press. Next milestone. By March, this wasn't just a civil issue anymore. Because when Homeland Security raids your homes, you're not just in the gossip columns. You're in federal crosshairs. Receipt 7, March 25th, 2024. Homeland Security raids. This is the day the Diddy fallout went from Hollywood scandal to federal case file. Homeland Security investigations. Yes, the same agency that handles human trafficking and international crime raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. And this wasn't some quiet knock on the door. This was tactical gear, agents swarming, boxes of evidence being hauled out. And here's the kicker. The images hit the internet in real time. Neighbors, paparazzi, random passersby, everyone with a phone had footage. By nightfall, the world had seen the feds marching out of Diddy's mansions with files, electronics, and God knows what else. What it changed. The narrative snapped instantly. Civil lawsuits can be spun as money grabs, as he said, she said. But when federal agents storm your homes, that screams, "This is bigger than gossip." Suddenly, it wasn't just women in courtrooms, it was the U.S. government treating Diddy like a target of a criminal investigation. And legally, raids like this aren't fishing trips. To get a warrant, prosecutors have to convince a judge they'll likely find evidence of a crime inside. That means by March, the feds already had receipts of their own, enough to walk into court and say, "We need access now." The PR fallout was brutal. For years, Diddy had curated the image of a mogul above the fray. Luxury, power, music empire. Now the visuals were SWAT-style agents hauling evidence out of his homes. The mogul image cracked. For many fans, this was the first time it felt real. And here's where the legal tea gets hot. Those raids didn't just embarrass him, they set the stage for the next big fight. Bail. Because once prosecutors start talking about international travel, cash stashes, and multiple passports, they don't just paint you as a mogul. They paint you as a flight risk. Next milestone, the filings start to focus on one question. If Diddy walks free, will he ever come back? Receipt 6, April 2024, flight risk filing. If the raids were the show, April was the paperwork that proved the point. Prosecutors filed motions calling Sean Diddy Combs an extraordinary flight risk. And that phrase isn't courtroom fluff. It's a legal death sentence for bail. Here's why. Flight risk means the court believes if you let someone out, they might never come back. And Diddy checked every box prosecutors love to highlight. First, resources. We're not talking about He could maybe borrow a cousin's car and dip. We're talking private jets, international homes, offshore accounts. Prosecutors pointed to reports of cash stashes and multiple passports seized during the raids. In federal court, that looks like a go bag for vanishing. Second, motive. Diddy isn't facing a slap on the wrist. With racketeering and trafficking type allegations swirling, he's staring down potential decades behind bars. Judges think in terms of incentives, and the bigger the sentence, the bigger the temptation to run. Third, precedent. Flight risk rulings lean on comparisons. Roman Polanski fled and lived abroad for decades. Bernie Madoff was locked down before trial because of his resources. Prosecutors love to say, if it could happen with them, it could happen with him. What it changed? Bail went from maybe possible to nearly impossible. Once the government brands you a flight risk, the burden flips. Your lawyers have to prove you wouldn't run, and judges almost never buy it when you've got jets and cash sitting around. And here's the kicker. In their filings, prosecutors weren't subtle. They said Diddy's resources, combined with his potential sentence, made him an extraordinary risk. Once that language is in the record, it echoes. Every future bail hearing starts under that cloud. So now, the stage was set. April wasn't just about raids and resources. It was about planting the line that would haunt every hearing after. No set of conditions could keep him put. Next milestone, May 2024. The judge officially puts that line in black and white. Receipt 5, May 2024. Bail denied, judge's key line, May 2024. Diddy's lawyers walk into court hoping to spin a miracle. They propose strict conditions: house arrest, private security, daily check-ins, ankle monitors, the works. Their pitch is simple: we can build a cage outside prison walls. But the judge wasn't buying it. Not even close. In the official ruling, the court dropped the line that now haunts every motion. No set of conditions can reasonably assure the safety of the community or the defendant's appearance at trial. That's not just a denial. That's a door slam. In federal court, once that phrase makes it into a ruling, it becomes the baseline. Every time his lawyers come back with a new bail request, judges look at that line and say, "We've already answered this." What it changed? This is the moment Diddy stopped being a free man waiting for trial and became a defendant locked in MDC Brooklyn. And let's talk about that for a second, because MDC is not a cushy celebrity lockup. It's notorious. Overcrowded, poor conditions, violent outbreaks. Inmates call it worse than Rikers. For a man used to yachts and mansions, it's a 180-degree crash. And here's the kicker. Denial of bail doesn't just punish comfort, it cripples defense. Building a case from inside MDC means limited attorney meetings, no private offices, and barely any time to sift through the mountain of discovery prosecutors are throwing at him. Judges know that, which is why bail is such a massive battle in cases like this. The PR fallout was brutal, too. Every headline boiled down to the same 3 words: still in jail. And those words don't just sting, they snowball. Business deals pause. Partners distance themselves. The mogul image shrinks into a mugshot reality. So May 2024 gave us the most important receipt in this whole timeline, the line that chained him to a cell and still blocks his lawyers months later. Next milestone, when Kid Cudi's bombshell testimony added another layer, intimidation, to why that line won't be erased anytime soon. Receipt 4, June 2024. Kid Cudi's car bombshell. If the bail denial was the legal gut punch, June 2024 brought the drama that made jaws drop. Kid Cudi's car explosion. Here's how it landed. Court filings revealed testimony that Kid Cudi, yes, the Kid Cudi, the man behind Day and Night, claimed his car mysteriously blew up in his driveway after tensions with Diddy. Not vandalized, not keyed, not stolen, blown up. Think about the imagery for a jury. Not just whispers of abuse, not just civil allegations, but a story that feels like it belongs in a mob movie. For prosecutors, this was a gift. They framed it as part of a pattern of intimidation. The message? If you cross Diddy, bad things happen. What it changed? Suddenly, this wasn't just about parties gone wrong or relationships turned toxic. It sounded organized, intentional, retaliatory. Prosecutors love narratives like this because they're sticky. Juries remember the car blew up. Headlines repeat, the car blew up. It turns a sprawling case into one explosive image everyone understands. Legally, it also strengthened the danger to the community argument that killed bail. Even if Diddy himself didn't light the fuse, testimony like this suggests he had the power to make intimidation happen. And in federal court, perception is enough to keep you locked down. But let's talk PR. Kid Cudi's revelation gave the media a brand new character in the saga. Suddenly, this wasn't just Diddy versus his accusers. It pulled another celebrity into the orbit, one with his own loyal fan base. For Cudi, it meant headlines he never asked for. For Diddy, it meant his scandal had officially jumped from private allegations to public celebrity testimony. And here's the kicker. Once Cudi's story hit, everyone started asking the same question. If this happened to him, who else might have stories they've been sitting on? That's the dangerous part of testimony. One brave statement can spark a chain reaction of others stepping forward. So, June 2024 wasn't just a bombshell. It was literal explosive imagery that prosecutors will keep in their back pocket all the way to trial. Next milestone, summer headlines widen the circle even further, as names like Jay-Z, Beyonce, Cardi B, and 50 Cent start getting pulled into the storm. Receipt 3, summer 2024, celebrity spillover. By summer 2024, the Diddy fallout wasn't just about Diddy anymore. The headlines started pulling in other big names. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Cardi B, 50 Cent. But here's the reality. Almost all of it was PR smoke, not legal fire. Jay-Z and Beyonce were dropped from filings almost immediately. Cardi B was pure gossip adjacency. And 50 Cent? He inserted himself with memes and trolling, not court documents. What it changed? Nothing in the courtroom, but it widened the scandal's PR footprint. For a few weeks, it felt like half of hip-hop was involved, even though the actual filings said otherwise. Next milestone, prosecutors saw the growing storm and doubled down, reframing Diddy's empire as something much bigger, an organized enterprise. Receipt 2, July 2024. Prosecutors double down. By July 2024, prosecutors weren't just filing routine paperwork. They were laying down a narrative, and their language was razor sharp. In new filings, they described Diddy's network of companies, associates, and operations as an organized criminal enterprise. That phrase isn't random. It's legal code. It's the exact language used in RICO cases. The same framework that brought down mob bosses, drug cartels, and even rappers like Tekashi 6ix9ine. What had changed? This wasn't just celebrity scandal anymore. Once prosecutors say enterprise, the game shifts. Racketeering charges carry heavier penalties, wider scope, and more room for the government to pull in co-conspirators. It's no longer about isolated bad acts. It's about painting the entire empire as corrupt from the ground up. Think about how different that sounds to a jury. Compare. He did some bad things. That's one man's actions. He ran an organized criminal enterprise. That's a system, with victims, profits, enforcers, and a boss at the top. That kind of framing makes jurors feel like they're not just judging an artist, but dismantling a crime syndicate. And here's the kicker. Prosecutors backed up the language with receipts from discovery, financial records, travel logs, testimony from witnesses like Kid Cudi. They didn't just say enterprise. They said, look at the paper trail, look at the intimidation, look at the pattern PR fallout. Brutal. Once that organized crime phrase hit headlines, Diddy's mogul image evaporated. Articles stopped calling him hip-hop's billionaire businessman and started calling him the alleged head of a criminal network. That's a PR downgrade you can't spin with press releases. Next milestone, October 2024. The next bail hearing. His lawyers are promising new arguments, but they'll be crashing against the same brick wall. That one judge's line about no conditions, reinforced by prosecutors painting him as a would-be mob boss. Receipt 1, October 2024. Next bail hearing, and now we're here, the milestone everyone's waiting for. October 2024. Diddy's next bail hearing. His lawyers are hyping it as a fresh chance, a reset. They're floating stricter house arrest, new security measures, even offering to post astronomical bonds. The pitch is simple. He can't run, he won't run. Trust us this time. But here's the problem. October isn't a fresh start. It's déjà vu. Judges don't forget. And the last ruling already planted the killer line in black and white. No set of conditions can reasonably assure the safety of the community or the defendant's appearance at trial. That's the legal brick wall. Every new motion slams against it. Unless something seismic changes, like charges being dropped or prosecutors flipping their stance, the outcome is almost already written. What it means? The October hearing will generate headlines, maybe even courtroom drama, but the smart money says the ruling will stay the same. Denied. Diddy remains in MDC Brooklyn. And that's the irony. The closer October gets, the more his team will build hype, and the bigger the PR crash when the judge shuts it down again. The empire once branded as untouchable is now being reduced to 3 words that follow every headline. Still in jail. So there you have it. 10 receipts, 10 turning points. From Cassie's lawsuit to the lightning-fast settlement, from federal raids to Kid Cudi's car bombshell, and now to prosecutors calling the empire an organized crime machine. Every step tightened to the net, and every receipt tells the story of how the mogul brand collapsed into a defendant's reality. But now it's your turn. Do you think October's bail hearing will surprise us, or will it be the same denial dressed up in fresh headlines? Drop your verdict in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you want the receipts with your gossip. Because trust me, October isn't the finale, it's just the next episode.